You're listening to Moon Monkey with Matt and Andrew. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Hotel Artemis, directed by Drew Pearce.
So Drew Pearce says he's been a writer on one of the Mission Impossibles. He's done Iron Man 3, but this is his first movie he's directed as well. So Hotel Artemis is essentially a hospital or hotel for criminals, and you can only get in if you are a member.
If you're tagged.
If you're tagged electronically. No, it's more like a little barcode.
It's under your.
It's got a little barcode.
It's an implant under your skin, isn't it?
It's like being self-scanned.
Yeah.
If you're an injured criminal in futuristic LA. So it's set in the future in LA, and it starts off with a heist gone wrong with a couple of brothers and a couple of other guys. But the two brothers are the main people we follow through the movie.
Yeah.
And they are Sterling K. Brown and Brian Tyree Henry. And
well, they sort of lead you into the movie and get you to the hotel.
They lead you to the Hotel Artemis.
And then it takes on sort of different characters
Yeah.
inside the hotel.
But they get you there.
Yeah, they get you to the hotel essentially after they've this heist gone wrong. And also the major MacGuffin / plot point where they during the robbery they steal something which turns out to belong to a very important person in the underworld of Los Angeles who comes after them for it. You've also have Jodie Foster who plays the nurse at the Hotel Artemis, and Dave Bautista who plays Everest, her sort of assistant.
He's like an orderly and a nurse.
Yeah.
But there's loads of other people in it. There's Zachary Quinto and there's Charlie Day from like Always Sunny, who's really good. He's playing like a kind of like small villain in it, but he's quite good.
Yeah. Was that the arms dealer?
Yeah,
character?
yeah. And there's a little cameo by Father John Misty, who plays one of the guys at the heist as well.
Yeah. And does the credits song?
He does one of the songs in the credits as well. Yeah.
So it's like kind of an interesting movie. Like one of the things that I liked most about the film was that it's sort of an original-ish idea. Like a lot of anti-heroes. There's no particular, aside from Jodie Foster's character, but even her character, she's essentially like helping the criminal underworld by patching them up if they get wounded. So it's not sort of like a heroes and villains tale. But I like that. And again, it's not like a superhero film that we've had a lot of recently. It's not like your regular heist movies. It takes a very different angle on things by setting it in this hotel hospital.
You're kind of enclosed and you've got all the pressure.
I think some people described it as like the sort of hotel from John Wick, but like told from the point of view that you're just staying at that establishment and what that would be like for people that work there.
What I was going to say is just the hotel from John Wick.
Yeah.
So it's not an entirely original idea, but it's a very good idea.
And I mean, like following those characters rather than following like usually be following like the criminals outside the hotel, and that would just maybe be like a side part when they go to the hotel. But this whole film is like centered on the hotel.
Yeah. It is a good movie. I was very entertained. We saw it like a couple of weeks ago, so we can't really remember everything about it.
Yeah.
But what we do remember is it was quite enjoyable, and there were some really good performances. Jodie Foster was fantastic. Dave Bautista was really good. Yeah. He's got some really great comedy timing in this. There's some really good action sequences. Yeah,
there's some nice world building in it as well. I felt like the whole concept of Hotel Artemis and some of the things that they went on in the movie. Like we say, it's set sort of in a near future, so they touch on things like 3D printing of guns and weapons, and how technology is sort of aiding the criminals, but also not aiding them as well. How developments in technology are affecting this world. Also, sort of in the background going on, there's a kind of political satire, obviously set in Los Angeles in the near future, but everything seems to have descended into a kind of, it's like the Detroit of RoboCop. Everything is just crime and gangs, and the police are obviously fighting a losing battle in a way, as helicopters flying over everywhere. So I really liked that. I liked the way they'd set it. And there's a whole thing running through it as well of every time you catch the news, there's always these stories going on about the rioting, and like there's a curfew on, and various different things which are.
And they've privatised the water.
Oh yeah, that was the big thing.
That's the big thing, is people don't have water, and that's kind of like, well, you know, that's probably the future.
Yeah, so it's kind of like having a dig at like
Good luck, America.
At privatization and things like that, and I suppose like the whole medical system as well. You could say that there's hints of like a satire on sort of the privatized medical system, where the criminals basically are getting treated because they have the money and they're part of this.
For all.
Well, for all criminals. That's basically it.
Yeah. Yes. The little other thing. There's Jenny Slate, who was in Parks and Rec as well, which was a nice little cameo. And her and Charlie Day are kind of more known for comedy, and they're doing like these kind of serious characters, and they pull it off really well. Yeah. There's also, we haven't mentioned, Jeff Goldblum's in it, which all movies benefit from just a little bit of Jeff Goldblum. This is just like a sprinkling.
A little bit of Jeff.
There's not a lot of Jeff.
Yeah.
But there's enough. And he's a good. You didn't really like him as a villain, I thought he was a decent villain.
Yeah, they build him up through the film as like the wolf. Like he's like they do build his character up, but I felt like when he arrived, I couldn't really take him as sort of threatening villain. I think just because his overwhelming niceness. His likability shone through, and you're kind of like, oh, he seems too jovial.
I like him as a villain. He was good in Thor Ragnarok as well. I think he makes a good villain because he's getting a bit older.
The thing is, I liked him more in Thor Ragnarok because he was like the comedy villain.
And he did melt someday when you first met him.
But in this, it's like he's not really meant to be the comedy villain. He's meant to be like a terrifying villain, but he's still doing more of kind of a comedy shtick. But I think the film doesn't take itself that seriously anyway, so it does fit in.
Also, Sophia Boutella is in it as well, who was in Star Trek Beyond, Kingsman.
Oh, she was really good.
Blonde, and she was really good, and she had some really good action sequences. And she was a really cool character.
She was fantastic. I like the way they built up the characters. Like they kind of created all these characters, threw them in together, and just like see what happened. Like the film didn't seem overly plotted. It just seemed like they were characters sort of sparring off each other.
Yeah, it was a little bit. It was a little bit like, what's that cowboy one where they're all trapped in a
Hatefully.
A little bit like that, because like you've got these characters just trapped together.
Because you don't know what's going to happen, and like I say, because none of them are like obviously like a good guy. It could be like anything.
Nobody's a good
these
guy.
Characters.
So overall, it's a decent movie. I thought it was good. There was some good performances. It was enjoyable. It wasn't like breaking the mold and not going to probably win loads of awards, but there's some really good performances, some really good action sequences, and it was a nice little idea. And it's got Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, it doesn't take itself too seriously, so it's just
solid,
sort of enjoyable action film. So that was our review of Hotel Artemis. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back again soon with more reviews.